Welcome back to the FloTrack Podcast. FloTrackPodcast@gmail.com is the email address. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. You also can watch us, FloTrack.org/FloTrack Podcast. I'm Kevin Sully, joined by Gordon Mack. And Gordon, today we're talking about the best men's races / performances of 2020. On Tuesday, Lincoln and I broke down the women's side of things. So if you want to check that episode out, find that Wednesday pod. But today we're talking about the men's list here, and it is a deep competitive group for 2020.
It is. What was your methodology of formulating this list?
The methodology was really first look to world records because there were a lot of them. And it's surprising because the year was so chaotic. So you basically had to get a world record or be near a world, very, very close to a world record to get onto the top 5. After that, I looked to like which races had important stakes. And then finally, I just looked to which races stood out. But for example, if you had told me in the middle of the summer or the end of the summer, whenever they said, hey, the London Marathon is back on and it's Bekele and Kipchoge, I'd have said race of the year. In fact, I probably did say the words race of the year. Well, guess what, Gordon? Not only is it not in the top 5, that didn't even make honorable mention on the men's side. Women's race made it. Men's race, you had the DNF, you had Kipchoge getting 8th, you had bad weather, didn't even make it. And it was supposed to be the race of the year.
That is, yeah, it's wild how what you expect and what you get are always never the same, right? This is how life goes, right? We go into every championship season thinking one storyline, and then we get a new storyline. It's just how our sport is. That's what makes us great. That's why you got to watch it live and see what happens. I mean, the whole storyline for last year was like, you know, like for instance, in the college world was like no one was talking about BYU, and then BYU won, and that became like the star of the season. You know, same thing here. Like no one was talking about, like on the women's side, no one was talking about Keira D'Amato, and then here we are. Keira D'Amato is like the year of 2020, and on this men's side, there's a lot of races that no one thought was going to happen, and now like Chepta guy of one person in particular went from like, yeah, he's pretty good, you know, like yeah, he's like a medal contender every year to now like, wait a minute, like he's breaking 2 world records. So I'm excited to see this list unfold and how you ranked it. I'm excited to dunk on it and tell you where you're wrong and where you're right. Hopefully you're more right than wrong, but we'll see when you release this list to our viewers and listeners. But yeah, what do we have in honorable mention first?
Okay, an honorable mention. Let's start with not only a person running a distance we didn't expect, but in a location we didn't expect. I didn't even know what the AP Ranch was, Gordon, when 2020 began. And now I'm so familiar with the AP Ranch. So I put Michael Norman. I have 6 honorable mentions, and I put Michael Norman's 9.86 on there from the AP Ranch. Just notable because the range from 100 to 400, and there weren't a ton of sprint performances to choose from. So I wanted to get a sprint performance out there. So I have Norman's 9.86 on the list there.
Yeah, I mean, that whole meet was notable, right? With the whole idea of seeing star athletes jog 50 meters, 60 meters, 300s just because of a Nike contract situation. Show the ridiculousness of our sport. But Norman showed the ridiculousness of his talent by running what you could say is, hey, you are a gold medal favorite if you're running 986, and he probably not going to run the 100 for another 2 or 3 years, right? So it's just cool to see how good Norman is. And hey, this is what Norman needs to do. You run 986. I need to see you at the Olympics run the 100, run the 200, run the 400, run the 4x1, run the 4x4, and run the mixed 4x4. Become the Michael Phelps, get your 6 gold medals, and call it a day. That's what I want to see. I mean, let's just be honest.
Call your hamstrings.
He would
call your hamstrings.
Would he not be? He would be favorite, if not like second favorite in every one of those events.
In a vacuum, yes. But when you pile up the amount of running he'd have to do to get there, no. And the 100 be iffy because the emergence of Bromell. The emergence of Bromell changes things. But 400,
but no,
obviously
no
4x1 and no Coleman, you're right. But you have Lyles and you have Bromell. I'd love to see it. I just love to even see the double. The 4x1, the 4x4 are
sextuple. Is that what I'm going for?
Yeah.
Sextuple?
Well, the 4x1 and the 4x4, I don't want to say they're easy, but he's one of 4 people on those teams. The open 4, again, he hasn't done it yet, but I think he should be considered the favorite heading into the year based on his 43-45. But then you got to go into uncharted territory there in the 1 and the 2. And the 2 would be the hardest, which is weird to say. The 200 would be harder than the 100, but I think there's more questions in the 100 based on who's going to run it. And that 986 was good enough. Other honorable mention. This isn't a person, or this isn't a race. This is a throw. And actually, it's not one throw. I'm going to give it 4 throws. Ryan Krauser this year went 2291, 2274, 2272, and 2270. So those 4 throws are 4 of the 14 best all time. And Ryan Krauser, he picked a bad year just in terms of his competition to have this year because with Chepta, with Mondo, with Warhol, there was just so much competition. There was just so much competition for athlete of the year this year that he's not getting his due. So I'll put Krauser's marks out there as best performances of the year honorable mention as well.
I mean, I had a good time calculating all the over 22-meter throws and him breaking like
it's nuts,
barriers. It was like, it's weird that what else could he have done, right? It's like crazy. The only other thing he could have done is just break the world record. But like, who would have thought that like being incredibly talented every single time and like compared to anyone like 50 plus more times than anyone else, and you're an honorable mention. It's just wild how it all plays out like that.
Yeah, the consistency is what was remarkable, and I think you captured that in your graph. It wasn't just, he had 4 of the top 14 of all time, and then he had some duds out there. No, it was every single competition. He was just pounding them over 22 meters. That season's going to live on forever. And if he's a fraction of what he was in 2020 and 2021, you're going to see something historic. And, Gordon, he's putting that world record in sight, which is a record I did not think would be broken for another generation. But he's sneaking up on 23 meters, which is just astonishing to think about. Another honorable mention, the Monaco. I'll just throw these 2 together because these are fast European distance races. Monaco 1500, Timothy Chariot and Jakob Ingebrigtsen both ran 3:28, and I picked that because it was a really competitive race, and it was cool to see Chariot and Ingebrigtsen go back and forth this year. Ingebrigtsen hasn't been able to overtake him yet, but he closed the gap, I think, a little bit this year, but Chariot still reigns supreme. And then the Rome 3K, again featuring Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he got second this time in 7:27, and it was won by Jacob Kiplimo in 7:26. Stuart McSwain was 7:28. Very deep, very competitive. Obviously, Kiplimo went on to win the world half, and he's actually younger than Jakob Ingebrigtsen, so Jacob is outdoing Jakob in this case. But I wanted to add both of those because there was some good, we forget about it because of what Chepta did, and because some of the fields in the Diamond Leagues were complete duds. The mid-distance for the men's side of things showed up a lot. I mean, you could even go into the 800. Brazier ran some fast times, obviously. Chariot made a lot of appearances, but the mid-distance was actually pretty good this year when you look at it in total.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think Ingebrigtsen's went out everything? Do you think he'll ever get a gold at a world championship outdoor performance, like Olympics and outdoor and global outdoor championships?
I think he'll get one. He's just too consistent not to. Now, the thing is will he, when's Chariot going to move out of the way, basically? Because Chariot now looks to be on another level. But I think there's enough variability in the 1500 that he'll be able to grab. So because we're about to next year we're starting this awesome run, Gordon, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So we're starting 5 straight years of global championships. I think Ingebrigtsen's going to get one in the 1500 there. 5K is going to be a lot more difficult with people like Kip Limo and obviously Chepta guy in the mix. But I think the 1500 is where he can get one. He's one of those guys who would benefit from a 3K at the world level. Him and Ryan Hill, 3K all-timers.
I mean, he's definitely going to win World Indoors one year. That's for sure.
Yes, yeah, but I'm not counting that because there's no indoor Olympics. So, do you think he's going to get? Do you think he'll be able to get one or more than one?
Yeah, he's so young. The odds are in his favor. There's going to be one year where Chepta is off his game or injured, or Chariot is injured or off his game. Like it's going to happen. He's so young. He has so much time and so many opportunities. He's bound to crack one off. The question is though, like if you took Chepta and Chariot, if they didn't exist, like have you ever seen the HBO show The Leftovers?
No, you'll have to tell me about it.
Great show. It's a show where there's an event that happens where 2% of the world's population disappear, kind of like Rapture type thing, but it's not Rapture, but 2% of the people disappear. And then the whole show is based on how does society react to that and how they handle and cults form and all this stuff. But if Chariot and Chepta were part of that 2% that just disappeared, all of a sudden Jacob Ingebrigtsen has a chance to become an all-time great distance runner that we've ever seen, like a Mo Farah type, because he would be young and good and be able to go on a long, decade-long run. But when there's like these all-time greats in your way, it's kind of hard to have that. You know, it's like, so that's what we need. You need a 2% departure, and Chepta and Chariot to be part of that. But I don't think it's happening. I think it's a fictional show. So until then, it's just going to be really good.
Yeah, and it's going to be, it'll make the win more meaningful because he's going to have to beat one of the greatest of all time in the event to do it. Also on the list, I put the Baumann 5K on here where Mohamed ran 12:47. Now, granted, just as was the case with the women, Baumann laid down these really, really fast times, but then later on in the season, somebody else broke the world record in the event. So it made you scratch your head and go, man, all right, well, 12:47 is good, but 12:35 is out of this world. But it still was stunning to me that they were able to pull this off in that time trial setting. Lopez Lemong also broke 13 minutes there. So I included it. I know a little bit of North American bias here on my side of things, but it was an exciting race to see. And this was when we didn't really know what we were going to get out of the season. So the fact that Ahmed was that good and Lemong was able to break 13 was a fun race. It was a fun race.
Yeah.
Time trial, I should say. Not really a race. Time trial.
Time trial. Who else do you have on the honorable mention? Is that it?
I got one more. I put the Olympic Trials Marathon on because it had stakes. You know, I mentioned how once the pandemic started and we got the London Marathon back, we thought that was going to be the race of the year. And I didn't even include it in here. The trials, even though Rupp won and dominated and Jake Riley made the team, which we expected, you know, we had one surprise in Abdi on there. I think you still have to include the marathon trials in here just because it was Olympic trials and it was the only real, like, none of these other races really mattered if you think about it. Yeah, there were, I guess they got some people paid, which was good, and we got some world records. So those ones mattered in that sense. But in terms of going to like carrying over into 2021, the marathon trials carries over well there. And we just saw the gulf between Rupp and everybody else. There were some questions going in, right? This was his first big race with head coach Mike Smith, a person I don't think you've ever met before, but seems to be doing good work down there in Flagstaff. Riley gets his, in his final attempt, he said this was going to be it and kind of goes out and does it. Abdi, still young in his career. This bodes well for his future going into 2024 and 2028. I think maybe he'll make 9 or 10 Olympic teams at this point. It was just it was the Olympic trial. So it's always going to be pretty good, even if the race itself at the top went to 4. I mean, you had Riley grab the flag early. That was kind of fun. career just missed. There's always good stuff in trials races.
It was the only race, I'm willing to say, of all levels, high school, college, pro, international, US, all levels, where losing mattered. Like a loss mattered.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Like there was no other event where taking second, third, or fourth, taking fourth, like whatever, had an off day. Yeah. Like, and I'm even willing to include, which we'll get to later, world half. Like technically, that's a world championship. Who cares who's the world half champion? Like, cool. Like, wow. No, it's not a real event. Let's just be honest. It's not a real event. No, how dare I say that? We'll talk about it because they're in our top 5. But it's kind of wild. That literally is the only thing that had stakes. Like even you could argue even London didn't have stakes because it was the stakes of like, hey, we're just trying to like do it, right? Because we want to have a marathon go on. But like it was a weird like looped course. It just losing.
Well, the stakes went away. The stakes went away when Bekele pulled out and when the pace was slow because of the weather. Because the only way that was really going to be interesting was if Kipchoge lost to Bekele or Kipchoge lost his world record. But someone beating him and them running several minutes slower, it didn't change the calculus. Yeah, the win streak was snapped, but is anybody going to make an honest argument right now that Kipchoge is not still the best marathoner in the world? I mean, that's an insane take to have. It's stupid. So,
this is crazy. That was the only race that mattered, the Olympic trials.
No, and I like the way you put that, where losing mattered, because winning certainly did obviously have an impact for Chepta guy because he's now the world record holder, and that's a historic performance. Or on the women's side, Gade getting the 5,000 meter world record, like that matters. Mono getting those records matters. But yeah, you're right. Losing was obviously devastating. You brought up the world half. Actually, the world half did not make it into my top 5. The Valencia half made it into my top 5. But maybe I should give, because you love the world half so much, maybe I'll give that honorable mention credit too. Although I want to say it's definitely behind Krauser and a lot of these other performances. I mean, Kiplimo winning was.
Yes, I confused Valencia with the world half. Sorry about that.
Sure. No, it's okay. So Kiplimo winning though was noteworthy because now he's a guy, right? He runs the fast 3K and you're like, oh, let's see what he does now. Oh, he goes on and wins world half. That's cool. And there were some big names in there. It would have been more fun, obviously, if Farah was in there. Chepta guy was talking some trash ahead of time. It was a fun race in terms of 2020. Any other year, I don't think it would make the honorable mention, but I'll put it there. But that brings me to the top 5. And I'll start 5 with that same distance. Valencia half marathon, Kipawat Candy, 57:32 to smash the world record, and 4 guys go under 58 minutes. I think if it was just a world record by one guy by a couple seconds, maybe it would not have created as much of a ripple. But for 4 guys to go under that barrier was noteworthy enough to put it number 5.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, first of all, they broke the record by almost 30 seconds, which was incredible. And 4, that doesn't happen. I mean, that's like, I guess we could say it's like breaking imagine if someone broke the marathon world record by a minute, right? And then 4 other people also broke the world record in the marathon. You'd be like, oh my goodness, it's insane, right? So, what does it make you think about the potential of the half? Like, have we hit the barrier of 57:30 being that, like, do you think we'll see a sub 57, a sub 56:30? Like, it seems so crazy that 4 can just break the half marathon record that easily and someone do it by 30 seconds. Have we hit a breaking point, or do you think there's still room for even faster performances?
I think we'll get a little bit faster, but I think that record was due to be broken. It's weird to call 58 low soft, but when you compare it to the marathon record and when you compare it to the 10,000 and the 5,000, the half marathon was due to be broken. So I think that was the big jump forward. And then I think, well, you might see a second here, a second there, but I think it's going to stay north of 57 for a good long while. We talked, Link and I were talking about the marathon project course and how fast that was, right? That's what this was. Although probably In many cases, it might have been faster. They were on it from the gun. They were all going hard. You saw how fast the marathon times were in this race. This was specially tuned course. Everybody's running fast in Valencia. It doesn't matter if it's, I don't know what's in the water because it's on the track or on the roads, 10K, half marathon, marathon. Everybody goes to Valencia and just runs fast. You should have JoJo run her next 5K time trial in Valencia. I guarantee you she'd run like 16:02 or something like that. It's just insane. The other good thing about this race, good from my perspective, well, good and bad. Bad, everybody started talking about the shoes because 4 guys broke 57. Oh my gosh, end of days. Good in 2 of those guys, including the winner, were wearing Adidas. So now we're not arguing about one shoe over the other. It's just all the shoes are fast. So now we're at a better, more even playing field, I think. Not that that's going to stop people from yelling about it, but it's harder to yell about it when everybody has the same advantage or close to the same advantage as opposed to one brand being ahead of the others. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Yeah. The shoe stuff reminds me of like, what was it? 2017 when like every month or so we would have to talk another Russia update about like, are they suspended, the doping, this and that. And like, okay, neutral authorized athletes. And I was like, all right, we get it. Russia is screwing everything up. All right. But like, there's a new report about, and everyone kept freaking out about Russia with the whole, and I think there's another one now. Are they banned again for 2021 Olympics? I think that came out, right? We didn't even talk about it. Like that was like, now Russia getting banned from Olympics is like, all right, yeah, we get it. They're not a country anymore, I guess. Because didn't that happen? Didn't they just? I'm not to digress to a different topic, but
yeah. So, they're banned from using their name and their flag, is what happened. But I think they've reduced the. I'm reading the AP report right now. It says Russia will not be able to use its name, flag, and anthem the next 2 Olympics or any World Championships for the next 2 years. It says the Court of Arbitration of Sport have the 4-year ban proposed last year by WADA, so they cut it from 4 to 2. So they'll still be allowed to compete at Tokyo. Yeah. So they'll still be allowed to compete at Tokyo and at the Winter Games in Beijing, including the World Cup, if they are not implicated in doping or covering up positive tests. So they're not going to be called neutral athletes, they can put Russia on their uniform now. So,
well, you said they said they can't use the name of Russia or the flag.
Okay, hold on. You're right. Here it is. This is what they agreed on. This is unintentionally hilarious. One small win for Russia. This is the AP report again. Is a proposed team name at major events. The name Russia can be retained on uniforms if the words neutral athlete or neutral team have equal prominence. So basically, if you put Russia neutral athlete on your jersey, you're fine. What?
But here's the thing. Maybe we pitch to them a new name because, like, if they don't want to use the word neutral athlete because they hate using the word neutral athlete, why don't you and me put a sales pitch, get a PowerPoint presentation? Let's design a new flag and a new name for Russia.
Yeah.
You know, like kind of like create a track club. I think that like RTC, the Russia Track Club. So just RTC and they just have the logo and the same color scheme. I don't know. What can we come up with?
The skeleton is open and is available. Right? The skull and bones. You can just run that one back. Do you remember when we were trying to come up with a new name for the Oregon Track Club a couple months back, and we were talking about getting how they should get. Well, they should get sponsored by a random pizzeria in Beaverton, Oregon, and we got some people writing in with their favorite pizzerias from Beaverton. I think that would be funny too. Just totally sell out and get a corporate.
It's like
sponsor.
A vodka company. Absolute Vodka should just like sponsor them. Boom, done.
And in lane 6. Representing Absolute Vodka, Sergei Shuvenkov. Lane 7, Grant Holloway from the USA. Lane 8, Pascal Martineau Lagarde from France. Here we go. The final, the men's 110 hurdles.
Wait, this might be their way to make money because you know the whole rules of no sponsorships.
Well, they owe money too,
this
right?
Is a loophole. This is a loophole. Yeah, this is a loophole. They'll be like, hey, you said we couldn't use the word Russia, so I'm using the word Arby's. Deal with it. And now they're getting paid in meat sweats and cheese curds and stuff like that.
So they say RUSADA is They have to pay WADA 1.27 million. You could easily make the 1.27 off of this sponsorship deal that you've proposed. I think it kills two birds with one stone.
Do you know it would be an ultimate troll if they use RUSADA as the name on their jersey?
Just like give it some other abbreviation.
Yeah, but you can't use Russia, but use RUSADA, and be like, all right.
Yeah, the R doesn't stand for Russia. The R stands for something else. It just happens to be on there.
Regeneron or something. Get that cocktail.
That'd be very 2020. Okay, I forgot where we started, but we'll just move on. I don't know how we got into Russia, but we'll move on. No, it's okay. Number four. I picked Carson Warholm's 46.87 in Stockholm in the 400-meter hurdles. It was only his second 400-meter hurdle race of the year. Number 2 time in history, 0.09 off the world record. What more can you say about it? We talked about him ad nauseum throughout the year. Lincoln and I also are going to talk about him on the end of the year pod, the very, very last episode of the year. This was a great race, but also he had a bunch of races after this too. So it made all the subsequent races pretty exciting because you thought, okay, the world record is at least on the line here. He never got closer, but he certainly ran. He ran 47.08 and then 47.07 as well too. So he posted a bunch of other really, really, really quick times. So he stole the show in he was the show, I should say, in a lot of those European meets.
It seemed kind of weird though to put that performance fourth. I don't know. I know you and Lincoln fell in love with Warhol. You got him on the pod. You guys became super Warhol fans. I saw you thinking about switching your citizenship to Norway. Like, I get it. Yep. It's cool, but like, I don't know. I think that maybe could have.
He ran the second fastest time in history. Who else put up a historical mark? Well, there's a couple other people on track events, and they're coming up next here. I mean, you could say,
true.
You could say, okay, you could say the half marathon world record should go above it because it was a world record, but there's no half marathon in the Olympics. So I'm putting Warholm above.
I guess number 2 all time. Yeah, I take it back. I mean, I was really into the clash in the garden. You know, whatever they call that. What was that?
Garden Clash. Which one? There were 9.
There's like 9 of them, especially the one where they just did like games that you play in like your schoolyard, like during recess. When then did they have like the decathletes do like recess games? Wasn't that a thing?
They did the shuttle run essentially.
Yeah, I was like, what are we doing? What are we? We're watching intramurals now. That's what on Facebook Live. It's weird. Anyway, okay, I get it. Warhol number 2 all time, 46.87. Yeah, I guess I respect that. So yeah,
okay, good.
But maybe I would have put it 5th and not 4th. Maybe I put the Valencia half above it.
Okay, that's fair. He just made everything exciting to watch because you knew what was on the line, and he could be jogging a 52nd, and he's fun to watch with the pre-race and the post-race stuff. Number three. This is where things get controversial, Gordon. I went Joshua Chepta guy, 10,000 meter world record, 26.11 in Valencia, as seen alongside Paul Chelimo. And it was the first bet that you won with Lincoln. So there's a lot going on with this one. Actually, probably the third bet that you won with Lincoln. Who knows? We lose track. I put it 3.
So why do you think – so this is you basically making a statement that you think his 5K performance is more impressive than his 10K performance. Why do you think that? Why do you think his 10K is second tier to his 5K?
Because Paul Chelimo said it, number 1, when he was on with us. And number 2, part of this is the order in which it happened. And because the 10K happened after the 5K, I thought it was possible. Whereas with the 5K, you're like, oh yeah, okay. World record, huh? Haven't seen one of those attempted in a while. Let's see how this goes. And then about 6 laps in, you're like, well, maybe. He's running like 60s. He's running a lot of 60s. Oh my gosh, he's going to do it. So the surprise factor was there for the 5,000. So from a viewing experience, I thought the 5,000 was more interesting. And then I'll defer to Chalimo, who didn't Chalimo said he talked to like Haile Gebrselassie about it too, or Mo Farah. I don't, he was name dropping all sorts of people who I can't name drop, and they were saying how the 10K was going to go, the 5K was the harder mark. So that's why I went with it.
Okay. Do you think we are in store for sub 26 10K in the near future? So back to back sub 13s?
No, I think we got a while to go on. I think this one's going to hold for a while. I think this one's going to hold for
11 seconds over 25 laps. Isn't that much? It's less than a second a lap. It's half a second a lap.
Yeah. He was on a roll this year. Obviously started early, ran that road 5K real fast. I think this is going to be the fastest season of his career. I know I'm saying a lot of things where I'm like, nope, 2020, no one's ever going to outdo it. And I'm going to probably regret it in a couple months when people just pick up where they left off. But as Chalimo was saying, you just don't get that many opportunities in your career to run a race like they had in Valencia, where it was just a pure time trial and you didn't need to worry about burning yourself out for a major championship. And with him, he had just think about the pacers it would take to get together to pace a 26-minute 10K. So you need to find somebody who can run 13 flat on the 5K who's willing to do it. Like that's hard to do in a year where there's a championship, right? That's going to be hard to find those people. There's not that many on earth.
But the thing is, this is what I think. I think when I look at barriers, it's so much more fun when the barrier has 0-0. So like going to the 59 point, like breaking 12:30 in the 5K doesn't look as not sexy. Breaking 3, you know, what's the 1500 record?
326.
26, you're like 325 doesn't look sexy. We've already like there's something about breaking 0.000, right? And we now have that in a 26:00. Like seeing 25:59 is like a cool thing. Seeing 1:59:59 for a sub 2 marathon. We don't really. It's hard to get to a situation where you have the breaking to a new minute mark. I mean, what other events are close to a new minute mark in world record? I mean.
Women's 5,000 would be awesome. 13:59
okay,
for women would be pretty cool.
So sub 15, yeah. Anything else?
Women's high hurdles, 12:2.
No,
an 11:99. 11:99 hurdles.
You think 11:99? That seems far. 0.2. You think 0.2 is more realistic than 11 seconds over a 10K?
I think that's
43 seconds. Is possible, right? With the 400, a 42.99.
Yeah, but that's not doing what you said. You said you wanted to go into a new minute, right?
Oh yeah, it's true. A new minute.
So there's not many. I mean, you saw it for the half marathon for the men. The men's marathon. You've already seen 1:59, even though it didn't count, but you've already seen what it looks like. You know what this reminds me of? When people stayed up on Y2K to see the clocks change to 2000, and then they're like, oh, yep, there it is. It's 2000. We'll go to bed.
So I guess we have a new minute opportunity in the men's 10K, women's 5K.
You want the new, like a new digit in there in the first or second spot. I guess I don't. How do you define this? I guess
you know what I mean. Because it's a new minute. It's 59 going to a 59.99.
No. But going from 12 seconds in the 100 hurdles to 11 seconds, I'm saying is different for some reason to me than going from 43 seconds in the 400 to 42 seconds. I don't know why. Does that feel as different to you? I don't know.
Because you want to go from 40 to 39, right? You want 9. I don't know. But you know what I mean,
it's hard
right?
to explain. I know what you mean. I just don't. I wouldn't put 42 and a 400 on the same level as obviously a 13:59.
True.
In a 5K,
yeah, so,
right?
But
I would say that's a new minute.
So, yeah, a new minute. So the women's 5K has it going 14:06 to 13:59. Women's 10K 29:17 to I guess 28:59, and then now the men's 10K, which is 26:11 to 25:59. Those are the 3 like breaking 2 type moments that we could get. Everything else,
Well,
I mean, maybe Yeah, half. No one gives a fuck about half. Come on. Sorry. Don't mean to curse. I know this is a G-rated podcast, but sometimes you just got to let it out. I mean, you could argue maybe a sub-4 women's mile, 4:12. I said we might be still kind of far. Are we far away from that still?
Well, if you
do you think in our lifetime? I think in our lifetime, you and I will witness a sub-4 women's mile before we die.
So Dababa's 350 converts to what? 407? And Sifan Hassan's converts to about a 408? I'm surprised more people aren't talking about it. Maybe we need to be the ones who talk about it.
Yeah. Like, I think before we die, so we got, 50 more years on this earth? We're going to see it. That's pretty cool.
I don't know about you, but I'm planning on being for a while.
But like, we didn't get to see Roger Bannister do that, right? We did not get to see that. We just hear about it. But we're going to be able to see that, a woman break 4. And I think that'll be really cool.
What would need to happen? Okay, how fast do you need to run an 800? What sort of 800 shape do you need to be in?
To break 4? You probably need to be...
Think about some random college guy. Go into your Tiefer's knowledge bank in your head.
Maybe 150.
Okay.
152, so maybe?
Can you do it with 152?
Let's look up who's going to be our guinea pig for like the perfect, who's the pinnacle of a sub-4 miler?
This is your jam. I don't know. The 9th guy on everybody, like the 9th guy in Oregon probably has like a 359 PB. Look up the 9th guy in Oregon. There's too many to choose from.
How about AJ Ernest, Virginia? He ran 359.3.
Okay.
His PRs.
Save this.
There it is, 359.3. Yeah, it's another episode. But his 800 PR is 152.9. His 3K is 805. And his 5K is 1433.
Okay, well the 800 obviously is beyond the capability of.
But like, he's a 153 guy. He's a 153 guy. He ran 152.9. He's a 153 guy who broke 4. So you could probably find a woman who could run 154 eventually, right? I mean,
yeah, but can they run 804? But can they run 804? That's the question too. On the other side of it, can that same person?
Yeah, he runs 1433. We know there's people who are. I mean, eventually there's going to be a really strong 5K woman who's like a 1410 type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who then can probably run.
Is that where it's going to come from? 815. Yeah. Well, is it going to come from a distance person, or is it going to come from an 800 person?
I think it's going to come from a distance person. It's going to come from a distance person. Okay. It's going to come from a 5K runner who will drop down and run a 359. Yeah. And I think we'll see it in our next 50 years.
Do you know what would be fun to see? You know what would be really fun to see? And I wish they would do this. When I'm in charge of track, when World Athletics emails me back and puts me in charge of track, I would do this. I would get out the wavelight technology, and I just want to see, so Ajay Wilson, right? 155 PB. Set the wavelight to 4-minute mile pace. Raven Rogers, whoever.
See how long you go.
And just see how long, just see how close they could get. And I know, you could write, oh yeah, they run the 1,000. Okay, but that's set up as just like a race. I just want to see how long that they could hold it. And the 1,000, we saw some thousands this year because Faith Kipyegon tried to break the 1,000-meter record 100,000 times, and she ran 2:29 this year on 2 occasions. So she stayed on. So she was on 4-minute mile pace for 1,000 meters. So it's like how. Yeah. Oh, you know what you could do? They probably don't keep this record. I mean, you could, like, I wonder how, like, you could look at the 800 meter progression for the men relative to when the mile record got broken, and to see how long it took the men to go from whatever. I mean, there's so many variables in there, of course, because it got professionalized and all the technological advances and stuff too. But I would like to see that with the wave.
Yeah. With the wave, just see push till you die, right? Just run till you're dead.
Do you know, and I keep floating this idea, and I've mentioned it to a couple people and no one's taken me up on it. So I'm going to say it here publicly so anybody can steal it. No, someone needs to do this because this person, actually, I probably shouldn't even say it because this is something you and I should do and then post it on the internet and get 1 million, maybe 10 million, maybe 100 million YouTube downloads. Do a downhill mile with a woman and get them to break 4. You could totally do it. You get 100. There's all sorts of videos. There's all sorts of videos on YouTube or examples of guys running downhill miles and running ridiculously fast times. And they have downhill mile world records and stuff too. Where I think a guy's run like 3:29 or something like that. And I looked up what it is, the downhill mile for the woman. It's obvious, it's slower than what someone's run in legit mile because it was not obviously an Olympic champion who did it. But I think you get the right course. I think you get like a 3:59. That would be everywhere. Woman breaks 4 minutes in the mile downhill, but it still would be like a crazy feat because people would be like, holy crap. Like, isn't that an amazing performance for the men? I've told a couple people and no one, they're like, yeah, Kevin, whatever. They don't realize.
Have you told Ineos? Have you told Ineos?
No, that's my problem. I told people who didn't have a lot of money, but like, I would do that. Like,
Kevin
why not?
Hart?
I will, I'll email him. I think there's a lot of like cool stuff that they could do. Like just like as exhibition.
I mean, if you put Shelby Houlihan, Safana Son, like just even like this generation's top milers.
Yeah.
Put them in a downhill mile. You definitely would get sub 410.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then maybe you get a sub 405. And then if you get that, you're like, hey, let's do it again next year. Let's run it back. I mean, anyway, I love how I turned the podcast that's themed on the best men's performances and races of 2020 into about Russia sponsorships and women's breaking 4 in the mile. So
here I found it. I found it. No, I found it. 4:02.
That's the record?
4:02. Christine Hughes ran a 4:02 in the Queen Street Golden Mile in New Zealand. In the same race, Mike Boyd, who's legit 72 Olympic bronze medalist, ran 3:28. And both of these were run in 1983. So Christine Hughes, I looked it up. I mean, she's a legit runner, but I don't think she's not better than Genzebe Dababa, Safana Son, or
what's her PR? What's her
Shelby
PR?
Houlihan. I remember trying to look this up before, and it was hard to find.
I'm sure her PR is probably in like the 425 range.
Let me try to look it up here. But yeah, and you can also just move the what do you call it? Like make it slightly more down, find the perfect angle, right?
More down. Just make them jump off the cliff and just fall for a mile. No, and then like, hey, they did it in 12 seconds. Look at that.
There's obviously
they broke a 4-minute mile.
There's obviously a point to where it would get ridiculous and also a point where it would be counterproductive.
Just rolling down a hill in San Francisco. Like, yeah, I've broken the mile. I ran 2 minutes. I broke my head, but whatever.
She was in the 88 Summer Olympics in the 3000. So I can't find time. Let me try one more place here. Keep talking.
Okay, while you look it up, while we turn this podcast into something that's not about what the theme is. So number 3 was Chepta guys 10K, 26:11 in Valencia. Number 2, go with Mondo, 6:18 indoors in Glasgow. He basically broke indoor and outdoor world records. Right? Did he break the outdoor world record? He didn't even put his outdoor world record in here because his indoor record is better. So it's kind of funny. Yep. I think they need to change that. They need to combine that. Because indoor, outdoor, I don't like how normally indoor is always slower than outdoor, but for vault, it's better, and I don't like that. They need to change something. Anyway, but Mondo 6:18 indoors. Number 2, performance in 2020. What else does he have to do now? I mean, he breaks both records. Now his next goal is just collecting golds, right? That's what he needs to do. And like you said, we're now entering a phase where there's going to be a lot of gold opportunities with 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, right? That's right.
Right,
And then
right.
2026 is off. So 1, 2, 3. I mean, I think what he's going to want to do is just try to go 5 for 5, maybe also win all the indoors and just see how much gold he can collect. Is there going to be a point when Mondo gets bored? Like, could Mondo just be
switch events
bored before he turns 30 and be like, what else do I got to do? I broke all the world records, have all the golds. Like, I could see Mondo retiring early. Could you see that?
I could see him retiring early and getting really interested in who has the world record for the women's downhill mile, because I have some updated statistics right now for you, Gordon. So Christine Hughes, I believe, was married. Christine Fitziger, but it's kind of inconclusive. So she goes to the Seoul Olympics. So 1988, she goes to the Olympics in Seoul, finishes 9th in her heat of the 3,000 and doesn't advance. But that was 5 years after the Queen Street Mile. Okay, so I don't know what type of shape she was in relative to that. But obviously, I don't think you'd say she's best in the world. Then her next performance on Tila Stapaya comes 8 years later in 96, where she runs a 4:20 1500. But by that point, that's 13 years after her Queen Street Mile. So I think at the very least, we can say that she was not one of the best runners in the world. So I think same course, Shelby Houlihan, Sifan Hassan can go well under 4 minutes. Yeah. Well under 4 minutes. Yeah.
We need to do it. The Baumann downhill mile. Let's do it.
I mean, you don't think people would be interested in that? Oh man, I'm watching the clip now. This thing is really downhill. This hurts my knees to watch it. This is just sensational. Yeah, you'd have to ice for at least 3 days afterwards to make it work. I mean,
that's why we don't get it.
328. 328.
If anything, we should have done this downhill mile right when the pandemic started, because then you had time to recover. Maybe we missed our opportunity. We got to wait another 100 years for COVID 2.0 to come, and then we can do it.
People were experimenting with a lot of stuff, but it was weird. They were experimenting with a lot of stuff, but then they drew the line at the downhill mile, and I'm like, no, this is where you go. This is where you go. This is what gets you on TV right now, is by doing a downhill mile and performance. Yeah, because people would know the difference. Like,
I want to see the downhill shot put.
Woman broke 4. Dude, that would be incredible.
How far could you throw it? And it just throw it off a cliff. And I'm like, dude, I just threw it like 500 meters.
Downhill long jump, which is essentially just parkour. That would be pretty fun. Just everybody parkouring. Okay, number one performance. Number one men's performance.
Downhill 100 would be cool. See someone break 9 seconds. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. Number one men's performance.
With the win.
Joshua Chepta, guys, 5,000 in Monaco, 12:35. The top men's performance, Gordon. This is what we all came to this podcast to hear. Again, I put it over the 10,000 just because there was that element of surprise. This came in Monaco. It was a little warm. There were plenty of doubts heading in, even though he had run that road 5K world record, of whether or not he could pull this thing off. And in the beginning, maybe people were a little bit hesitant, a little skeptical. Oh, there's no way he's going to be able to maintain this. But he just kept clicking off those 60 points over and over again, breaks Bekele's mark, ends with a 12:35, obviously sets him up for the 10K world record later on in the year. That was my top race of 2020.
Yeah, I agree with it. And I like your take of what you said earlier about it was an unknown, and that makes it more special. The 10K was more of a known. We're like, hey, he just ran 12:35. He's going to break the 10K record. And I think it's just cool to see that. I mean, for me personally, I don't remember the 5K, 10K records when they were run. I mean, I was alive, but like I wasn't really following it that closely. So to be able to be knowledgeable of the sport and seeing it again is kind of cool that I get to kind of live through that. I got to live through the dominance of Mo Farah and now I get to see, Bekele's marks go down in real time. So I feel like I'm caught up on appreciating great men's distance performances, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what are the if you look at, I mean, if I look at the world like performances wise, like on the men's side, I got to see Rudisha, right? Because that's recent. Got to see Bolt, that's recent. Got to see Wade Van Niekerk. I guess El Garouge, I haven't gotten to see. I was a little too young for that, right? Because that happened in the late 90s. So I need a miler to come in and give me some throwback El Garouge type performances. Yeah. And then I'll be complete. Then and obviously Kipchoge in the marathon. So before I die, I need to see some El Garouge type racing go down.
I think you will. Side, I think you will. I think you're going to see Chariot. I think 326 is going to go down either by Chariot in the next couple of years or somebody else. I think that one is on the chopping block. But you're right. We talked about this when those records got broken. You got on the running events, you got that one. You got the 400-meter hurdles that's been out there a long time. But past that, everything is pretty recent. And then you're talking about Bolt's 09 marks as being ancient history, which is funny to think about. I remember way back when Usain Bolt broke the world record.
2009. Right. Man, that was more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I talked about this on previous pod. I'm not sure the order we're releasing these, or maybe I turned 33 on December 30th. So it's like I'm aging is crazy.
Larry Bird birthday. You're catching up to me. It's weird.
I know, man. I'm slowly going to catch you, man. Wouldn't that be cool if we could do that? If we could catch people in our aging? Like, I started off low. I know you were older than me when I in 9th grade, but like it's 2030 now, and I've caught you in age. Like,
yeah.
If we could like speed up our age catching.
I did feel like there was more of a gap when I first started with you. Like I felt like when you started, it was when I started you were 28 or something, but really you were turning 30 that year. And then now you're catching me. But I think what happens is we kind of forget our own age, or we always put our own age. We're like, wait, how old am I? When you get older, you're like, wait, how old am I? Oh, okay. So then you're like, oh, that person's older. Well, that means you're older too. That's the sad reality of it. You can't take any joy. I still think
Ryan Fenton's like 27, but then he tells me like his age, and I'm like,
he's not?
Wow. No, he's not 27.
Oh,
because when I think of Ryan Fenton, I think of watching videos of him in like 2008. In 2009.
Yeah.
So
that is interesting. It's like, what do you associate? I guess you always just associate the person's age with like when you met them, but it'd be interesting at the end of you get to the end of your, you get in your 70s and your 80s, and then they assemble a committee that tells you what your best year was. Like you are 17. That was your year. You were 27.
Yeah.
But I do the same. Yeah. I feel the same way about Ryan for sure. Yeah, I don't know how you felt, but once you turn 30, did it matter anymore? Really?
No, nothing matters.
No. Yeah. There you go.
Nothing's real.
Well, I knew with that.
Let's just be honest.
Thanks everybody for listening to the podcast. Just a great men's race recap of 2020. Thanks to Alon for producing. Stay tuned. We're going to have more best of 2020 podcasts coming your way. Until next time, thanks everybody. Talk to you soon.